Welcome to another coffee break here on my channel Firm Learning. My name is Heinrich and I'm a former McKinsey consultant. And today we will look at a recent Fortune article that maybe some of you also read. The article is called The McKinsey CEO Pipeline. So it discusses the claim that McKinsey is essentially a leadership factory. It is one of the key promises of a career in consulting that if you have worked in consulting for a certain amount of years, you are very well prepared to step into leadership roles in industry and other organizations. And today we will dissect the claims of this article and I will corroborate these claims with the very personal stories of my own time in consulting. So if you are interested what it's really like to work in firms like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, I trust this is the video for you. The article was quite widely discussed. It was even featured by the global managing partner of McKinsey, Bob Sternfels, on LinkedIn. I will include the post right here. And let's look at some of the facts that are being presented in the article. As per the article, 18 of the current Fortune 500 CEOs are McKinsey alums. And 28 of the current Fortune Global 500 CEOs are McKinsey alums. Over 700 McKinsey alums currently occupy C-level positions at companies with over $300 million in revenue. And in my opinion, most impressively, among the group of over 40-year-old alums, over half of them have reached C-level positions. I think this statistic is quite mind-blowing, and I can only share that this is true for me as well. I'm currently in my mid-30s and hold a C-level position at a young tech company. So let's look at the reasons discussed in the article why that is the case. And I will share a personal anecdote on each of these points, hopefully sharing some interesting details for all of you as well. And the first is that in these large consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, early on, from often the first weeks of your career, you're finding yourselves in high stakes, high complexity situations in large organizations around the world. You often from the first weeks need to talk often one-on-one independently with clients, collect information, analyze information, derive insights from that. You might interact with very, very senior C-level leaders of large corporations in the first months. You will regularly need to share, communicate, coordinate complex initiatives and projects with senior client stakeholders and often on quite high-pressing, high-priority topics that these companies are working on. And I can absolutely confirm that based on my own experience in consulting. When I was a young project lead, I was working for an advanced industries client that was in significant financial distress. And our task was to develop a turnaround strategy and manage the whole process along the way. This was a very high stakes situation for sure. We were working on restructuring initiatives for the business. At the same time, we needed to manage stakeholders like banks or investors who were heavily involved with lots of course, very emotional situations going on as well. At the same time, we were in almost daily interaction with the CEO and other members of the C-suite. And this for me as a young project lead in my mid to late 20s when I needed to manage this whole situation. Going through an experience like this is what most people only experience at the very end of their career, if at all, if indeed they manage to reach a senior leadership position in a company, and then they would have this uncomfortable position to indeed go through such a period of financial distress. Having seen this in my late 20s already and have managed the full process end to end, of course not alone, but with the help of other partners and then the consultants on the team, was for sure an experience I will never forget and that will support me throughout my whole professional life. The second main point covered in the article, why these large consulting firms are essentially CEO or leadership factories, are the very analytical, structured problem-solving skills that you learn in these roles. Very often the business world is complex, right? People talk about VUCA, the concept of the VUCA world. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. This is the decision-making environment that you find yourself in as a leader in business. And often you're faced with often contradicting data sets, contradicting views, contradicting opinions, no certainty what the right thing to do is. And what you learn early on, even as a junior in consulting, is to be confronted with all that mess and then to break it down to the basic insights, to some key things that you can take away from there to then steer your decision-making process. And if I look back at my own consulting career, in one of my very first projects, I was working for a large multinational company on a pricing study. My work stream as a junior consultant was to look at how this company is pricing their products in a certain business line that we were responsible for and come up with a new pricing model. So when I started doing that, I was thrown at with countless documents by my client counterparts, pricing manuals, price lists, then actual data, what products are actually getting sold for. This was extremely messy and even the clients struggled to get transparency and clarity on all of this. But then over the course of the next weeks, we managed, and of course not only myself, but as a team effort, to bring structure into this and then to develop, based on these insights, a pricing model that led to the client on average being able to charge a higher price for their services and products without actually losing demand, without selling less, which was of course a big win for the client and was largely driven by the analytical work of untangling all these different documents, data sets and other resources that the clients were already sitting on. The third point mentioned in the article is the breadth of experience that especially in the first years is prioritized over specialization in a very specific area of the business. It is no secret that young consultants typically in the first 1 or 2 years work in lots of different industries, lots of different functions, often even several geographies, and are able to learn lots of things across the wide range of business domains to sharpen their skill set. And then only over time, typically as soon as they move to the project lead role, they are asked to specialize, to pick a domain, often an industry or function, where they then become subject matter experts in themselves. And this is very true looking back at my own experience as well. Probably around half of the projects I was part of at McKinsey were not actually in Germany, but international. Most of them in Europe, few of them also overseas. I was able to collect insights in several industries, several functional topics, and this is an experience that helps me even until today. It builds the confidence in you that no matter what the topic is, no matter what the problem is, the domain, the industry, the function that you're operating in, you have the skill set, you have the abilities, because you did this already before in a short amount of time to at least understand enough to be able then to derive sensible recommendations, orientate yourself, and can structure and address problems in a way that creates value for the business. So what are the implications for you? What can you learn from that if you are about to plan your career? Well, of course, there's a lot of value in this career in consulting for the reasons discussed. But even if you're not working in consulting, one of the key insights for me is that you should actively seek complexity, actively seek challenges, go out of the comfort zone, accept that job that maybe makes you slightly uncomfortable because you do not know if you already have the skills to succeed in your own organization. Look for opportunities where you can get exposure to new topics, new geographies where you're not familiar with, to broaden your skill set, broaden your understanding, expand on the things that you have already seen in your life. And second, of course, try to develop this key professional skill set along the lines of communication skills, analytical skills, problem-solving skills, which is exactly the skill set that many consultants are valued for, which is the skill set that contributes to that many consultants advancing into senior leadership roles in these organizations, even in these large multinational enterprises. And if you need help with that, this is exactly what we launched our firm learning mentoring program for, where in a free initial consultation, you have the opportunity to talk to me or another member of our team, where we will look exactly at where you currently stand and what your roadmap might be, what your plan might be to develop these skills, and if we are able to support you in that. If you're interested in that, link to such a free initial consultation in the video description. Feel free to sign up. I'd be very excited to welcome you as a member of our program. I'm super interested now to hear what you have to say about this. Any comments? To what extent does this match your experience, the points mentioned in the article? Leave a comment and then we can discuss in the comment section. If you took any value out of this video at all, please destroy the like button and subscribe to stay up to date on all the content. Big thanks to all the channel members for supporting Firm Learning. My name is Heinrich and looking forward to talk to you again soon.